Hey everybody, it's great to be with you this afternoon. My name is Mike La Charite. I am a gold consultant with Team Sky. I've been with Archer and Evolution since April, so almost 7 months. And today we're going to continue this kind of series I've been doing on group events and talk about what happens after the contract is signed. What are our responsibilities? Similar to most of our dealings as travel agents, there is some follow-up that we have to do. With most of our clients, it's watching itineraries and flights and making sure that as things change, the clients are all updated, making sure payments are made on time. There's a lot of similarities here, but there's some different issues that we have to be paying attention to with group events. And in a lot of the cases with these, you're talking about a group could have multiple hundred, hotel room nights per night, and these could be quite substantial events. So catching a few of these things can actually have a really substantial impact on the client's bottom line. So they're really important. I figured it was a good thing to go through. It's going to be a pretty cut and dry training. There's really not a lot to it. But I am going to just share my screen real quick and we will dig right in. All right. So as I said, this is going to be managing group events after the contract. So they sign the contract. Now what? And first thing I want to do, this is going to be a little review if you've seen some of my other trainings, but I want to just lay a foundation with a few pieces of info. So first of all, when we're talking about group events, we're talking, at least for hotels, a minimum of 10 rooms per night, several different sort of associations or designations that these events fall into. So they can be corporate groups, association groups, nonprofit groups, or SMERF, which would be social, military, government, education, religious, fraternal. So those are kind of the four pillars that most hotels, and suppliers are breaking groups up into. And a lot of times they're going to have different contacts depending on what market you're serving. Okay. So for more info on this, I have done some past trainings. The Team Sky site will have those, or my YouTube channel has some, and I'm sure we're going to be digging into this more. A few important terms it's important to know for today's training. So the room block, that's a designated number of rooms set aside at a hotel for a group, usually at a discount. Okay, so the room block is the total of the block, the total number of rooms that have been set aside. A room night is considered one night in one room. So the total number of rooms times the number of nights is your total room nights. Okay, so if you have 10 rooms for 4 nights, 40 room nights total. Pickup, that is going to be the total room nights that the group booked against the block. So that number is going to change as you get closer to the event. The pickup is going to get higher. And it's really, if the group reserved 100 room nights, the pickup is how much they've actually sold and how much their attendees have booked. So maybe 80 room nights, 90 room nights of the 100. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's 150 room nights. So that would be the pickup. Okay. And a lot of times we use that when we're talking to a hotel. Hey, what's the pickup? Where are we at, currently with block? Attrition, this is in most contracts or group events, and it's the difference between your guaranteed hotel block numbers and your actual booked numbers. So usually there's a percentage for allowable attrition. For example, if you have 100 room nights and you have 20% allowable attrition in the contract, that means you have to guarantee you're going to book 80 of those 100 room nights. Okay. If you don't hit that minimum attrition percentage, then the client's going to pay penalties on that in most cases. Okay. A cutoff date, that's an agreed upon date. It's going to be in the contract, at which time the hotel releases any unreserved rooms in the room block to be sold through the hotel's normal sales channels. So let's say you blocked 100 rooms, you have a cutoff date a month before your event, and you've at that month only booked 60 rooms. At that point, they're going to release the other 40 rooms of your block, and those are going to be for sale on the hotel's website and through their other channels. Which means that, any other attendees that you have to book are based on availability, because those rooms could be sold by that point. Okay. Rooms outside the block, and this is super key for today's training specifically. So these are rooms that were booked by group members at the host property, but were not booked through official event channels. Okay. And that means when you're running reports, they're not showing up in the pickup. So for example, most hotels are going to give you a few different ways to make reservations, right? They're going to say you can call in, here's your group code. You can use our custom group link on the website, and that's going to automatically put in a group code. So it's automatically associating those people with the group. Somebody may go on Expedia and book their own room, and the hotel has no way of knowing that that person is part of your group. So that person would be considered a room outside the block. Okay. We're going to talk about some strategies to still take advantage of those rooms. Okay. So digging in the next steps after the contract, this is super key. I was talking with Jose just the other day about a group contract, and he mentioned to me how countless times agents forget to do their commission tracking forms. And when it's a group event, it becomes a lot more difficult for Archer to track it. So make sure you do your commission tracking form because it's really easy to forget about it later. And then, oh, wait, I never got paid for that, big group contract that I did. So super important. And there can be changes later, sometimes more often with group events than just our regular transient events. So make sure if something changes later and the expected commission changes, you change that commission tracking form and put up a new one, okay? Also, make sure the client pays the deposit. Like most of our travels, this is the case, but with a group event, it's usually a separate transaction. You have the contract signature, and then the client has to go and make a payment, whether it's sending in a credit card authorization form or doing it online or mailing a check even, as it is. So I can't tell you how many times I have had a contract signed by a client. I sent them everything they needed. And then a month and a half later, the hotel's like, hey, we never got paid. We're canceling this contract. So you will lose all the hard work that you did if that deposit doesn't get paid. So make sure that happens, okay? And then you really need to determine what support the client has and what they need from you. So a lot of clients, and we'll go into this, when you're talking about your role, a lot of clients are going to have a meeting planner. That meeting planner is going to do a lot of the work. They're going to follow up with the hotel. They're going to be, making sure that things are happening and making sure that, deposits are being done and all of that. So that's less work that you have to do, right? You still want to check in with them. But if the client does not have one, that's going to be a little bit more work on your part. And at this point, you have the option of saying, hey, I'm a travel agent. I booked things, but this is now going above and beyond my role and what the commission is going to compensate me for. So I need to charge you a service fee. Don't be afraid to do that because there's a lot of work that goes into the back end of this. Okay. And if they don't have a meeting planner, it's in your best interest to do some of this follow-up because for the most part, what we're doing here is making sure not only that our commission gets paid and that, the event happens and we're actually getting the commission, but we're making sure that our commission is as strong as it can be because we're finding rooms outside the block, some other things we're going to talk about. So it's really to your benefit to do the work. If there's not a meeting planner involved, I encourage you have a very, upfront and frank discussion with the client about what they need you to do and where you can be helpful, what your cost is for doing that. And, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah, that's why I hired you because I want somebody who's an expert and I trust the work you're doing. Okay. I have a very simple customer service agreement that I do. And I'll do another training on that one of these days on just how to put something together for a client. But it doesn't need to be super involved. Okay. A 1 or 2 page contract just protecting you and saying that they're going to pay you is good enough. Okay. All right. So once that contract is signed, you've done your commission tracking form, you've figured out kind of, okay, where's the role, what am I doing here? you want to introduce the client or the meeting planner to the hotel. They should definitely have the contact info. They're going to need to be talking about all sorts of things like food and beverage and meeting setups and all of that. So first thing, make sure there's an introduction and be clear in that introduction what your role is. So the hotel knows, hey, if it's anything regarding pickup, I need to go to, Mike as the agent. If it's anything regarding like the logistics, I go straight to the client. Okay. This is probably the most important piece, the pickup monitoring. I usually, depending on how far out, usually we're a year plus when we're doing groups. So usually monthly I start and I reach out to the hotel. Hey, just want to know if there's any pickup on the block. Let me know kind of where the numbers are at. They'll send you a report of the reservations. And then progressively, as you're getting closer to the event, you want to do it more often, every 2 weeks, every week. Towards the end, as you're getting really close, sometimes it's 3 times a week. That's why I say there is some significant follow-up here. But this is important for a couple of reasons. Not only are you making sure that the client is taken care of, and what you're trying to do here is find issues before they happen, right? If the client's going to be really short, you want to know that before you get down to it, and now they have a $20,000 penalty. But you're also doing this to safeguard your commission. So you're noticing, oh wow, there's not a lot of pickup. We're getting close. We need to do something to make sure that this block fills so that your commission comes through, right? So in a situation like that, if pickup is coming back very short, and it's a really hard line because we are a last minute culture. We kind of wait until we see if something better is coming along before we book. You'll have people that sign up for events and then don't book their hotels until like the week of. And it's so frustrating as a travel agent or a meeting planner, but that does happen. So it's really hard to gauge. But if pickup is really short and you are pretty confident you're not going to get to those final numbers, the earlier you have a conversation with the hotel, the better. Generally, about 90 days out is when hotels are kind of setting their budgets like for the next quarter. And so usually what's happening is the sales teams and the corporate leadership for the hotel, they're all meeting and they're discussing, okay, here's our projections for 90 days out. Here's what the next 90 days are going to look like. So if you come in within that 90 days and you say, oh, hey, I need to cut my group in half because we're not going to, hit our numbers, you're now the sales department has already pretty much told leadership, oh, hey, this is where we're gonna be in this month. And so now they're gonna have to go back to leadership and say, oh yeah, we're $20,000 short because XYZ happened. Doesn't give them a lot of time or incentive to negotiate with you because they're going to want to push the client to get those numbers in. If you get to them pre that discussion, so before the 90 days, and I'm not saying this happens all the time, but you are more likely to have a positive conversation where you're like, hey, we're 6 months out. I thought we'd be halfway by now with the block, but we've got 5 reservations. Can we renegotiate the block? Can we give back some of our concessions and cut the block in half? And a lot of times they're going to be willing to renegotiate with you. That's going to save the client a ton of money in penalties. Okay. And no matter what, the client pays penalties, you don't get commission on the penalties. So better for, this is where the client looks to you as the expert. And this is where you really prove yourself and you gain repeat business by, coming to the client ahead of time and really being clear with the communication. Hey guys, we need to do this. We need to at least talk about this. Okay. You also want to watch for pirates and rooms outside the block. So I'm constantly looking at attendee signups when I'm doing group events. And hey, I just had 20 people sign up today. My room block didn't go up. Hey, hotel, here's 20 people that just signed up. Can you just check if they made reservations that, maybe they're outside the block? And, oh, wow, we just found 5 of these people. Let me move those into the block for you. Now your client's hitting their pickup numbers and you're getting more commission because guess what? You don't get paid commission on rooms that are not inside that room block. So we want to find those. We want to move those in. Okay. And this is where it becomes really important. I did a session a couple weeks ago on negotiating a hotel contract. If you do a lot of groups, I highly recommend you watch that because it talks about some of these clauses, like rooms outside the block, that can really protect your commission. Okay. So I'm watching for things like that. I'm also keeping an eye occasionally on hotel reviews. Every month or two, I'll kind of log in and check the hotel and, hey, what are recent guests saying? Sometimes you find things, oh, they just started a renovation. Nobody told me that. That's going to have a huge impact on my client's event. Now you're being proactive. You're able to go and discuss that with the hotel and then bring it to your client's attention and say, hey, I was doing X, Y, and Z. I found this out. I talked to the hotel, and guess what? We got a solution for you without them even knowing what was going on behind the scenes. Again, proving your value, proving that you're the expert and why they need you. Okay. Make sure you're reminding the client as the cutoff day is approaching, hey, you guys only have 3 weeks and then this block's getting released. So you really make a push on your people right now to sign up. We just talked about being proactive, trying to come up with solutions to problems before you call the client. And also just monitor the contract. Make sure the client's getting all the concessions that are agreed to in the contract. Check the final billing and make sure the comp policy, when they're saying, hey, we're going to give you credit towards the master for 1 out of every 40 room nights that you book. Make sure that's on the bill because that's money the client doesn't have to put out. Okay. So it's just kind of watching. You can see a lot of these things are just enforcing what we've already negotiated through the contract process. Okay. So event happens. This is probably the most important thing, the room block audit. This is really the thing I wanted to talk about with this training. So after the event, you will have an idea what your pickup is, and kind of who booked and all of that. But most contracts are going to have a clause for a room block audit. And I always encourage including that when you're negotiating the contract with the hotel. What the room block audit is at the end, the hotel will provide a list of well, a lot of times it goes, the client provides a list of everybody who registered for their event. They will give it to the hotel. The hotel will then compare that list to their ledger of all the reservations that were made on those nights. And they will go and find all of those people that were potentially outside of the room block. Okay. So if they were not caught during the process, like we talked about, this is a way to safeguard and make sure at the end you're catching every single reservation that was made, even if it was made not in the room block. Okay. It's really important. If the client was 10 rooms short on, their room block, for the attrition penalties, and then you find 10 more rooms, guess what? You just saved them a whole bunch of money and you got your commission that you wouldn't have gotten paid before. Okay. So, making sure that you ask for that, because that's not generally a standard practice that the hotels will do, but making sure that you're in contact and you're getting the list from the client, you're sending that to the hotel. Again, it's beneficial for them, but it's also beneficial for you for your commission. Okay. Again, updating the commission tracking form, making sure that any changes that happened are there so Archer knows about them. I always like to have a conference call, even if I'm not doing the planning and I'm just, I booked the contract, did a little bit of follow-up, but I always like to have a call after to hear how the event went and determine what went well, what didn't, how we can improve, and then immediately we can jump into the conversation about the next event while it's fresh in their minds. So those are kind of the order of duties for me after the event: room block audit, commission tracking form, follow up with the client, having some sort of a call, and then jumping right into the next year. So I hope that was helpful. I know I kind of went through that fast. I'm always available in the Team Sky chats, or Emily and Liz. Everybody has my contact info. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. But I hope this is helpful. I hope it will help you maximize your group bookings. And good luck out there selling.